Jamil, what are you proposing on the question of LGBTQ?
Of course, so when you look at Article 27, the one that you've quoted, which talks about grounds that the state cannot discriminate on, what we see is that in the Supreme Court's decision, that was Eric Gitari versus the NGO Coordination Council, is that we actually see an expansionist interpretation of Article 27, because the Constitution says that you cannot discriminate on the ground of sex. What we actually have in the determination from the Supreme Court is actually they expanded the interpretation of what sex to include sexual orientation. Let me be abundantly clear here that this is what we are against is the ideology around sex and reproductive health, which we see heavily supported by the big firm because of business. And this is not a campaign and a condemnation against individuals. It is, we are clearly pinpointing out what this ideology will do in terms to our society and also to our values and the things that we hold dearly as a country. So why therefore our fears of 2010 are confirmed is, if you look, it is the same person who went to court to actually challenge the file a case on the freedom of association of persons who identify as LGBTQ. It is also the same person who went to court to challenge the provisions on the penal code, I think 162, the one that talks about that criminalize sodomy. Why? Because when you remove the Kenyan context and you see how these ideas evolved globally, it's the same tactics, the same practices. On this side, you expand these rights, but you go through the courts, not through legislative processes. So why we then raise the flag as a fraternity within the KCPF circles is that we know the harm that this does to societies. Because in our preamble, we've said we acknowledge the supremacy of the Almighty God. For a people of faith, which we are not, which we celebrate in our country, including even our national anthem, we know very clearly that He created the male and female. So for us, that is how we see it, and we see how over 3,000 history that has preserved society over time. When we start tinkering with the things and the pillars that form a society, that is when we become concerned, and we are pointing out clearly here that let us separate issues. If somebody has said that I am practicing these issues, the practice, you separate the practice and the person. So that, for example, if we see police officers meting injustice on individuals because of their practices, you're able to isolate the violence from the individual, so that you are consistent in pointing out why the ideology is wrong. So what for us, we are amending Article 2.5 of the Constitution, because we see the importation of those interpretations outside.
So what are you amending it to say?
We are repealing section Article 2.5 of the one that ratifies international, the domestication of international treaties. We are also expanding the national values to include family values, so that we can secure our interpretation. Then we are also amending Article 27. 4, the one that points out clearly the grounds for non-discriminations, because as she has said, it is not limiting. We want to make sure that...
So you want to limit?
Not limit, to clarify that it does not include sexual orientation, which we have seen the Supreme Court has interpreted that sex to include what? sexual orientation, which we are fearing even now with the Court of Appeal case, because the anti-sodomy case is currently at the Court of Appeal. Now, since the Supreme Court has already given an indication, anyway, it's a matter before court. Let me leave it at that.
As far as I'm concerned, the Constitution is so clear, and I'm not a lawyer. From a layman's point of it,